Okay, the records are now open. All right. Okay, Peter, I was picking up on some things about you. So it's like the records were already showing me things. So I'm trying to sort it all out. But so I'm going to go start with your first question. I'm going to kind of tie in some of the things I'm seeing in the records along with your question. Okay, so so this is from Peter. For my entire life, I've chosen a path that's very non-conventional. I never understood why, but I've always been guided somehow in the direction I've taken. Is there a reason why I go through life in such a way? It's not at all easy, but I just continue on this path. Is it the right path? Okay, so just to give you a little background on you, okay, I'm sure Lynn explained the concept of star seeds, okay, and all of us here are star seeds. Okay, this is why we're all connected to each other right now. So you were born in 1970, and so for this reason, I don't know if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon or her work, but she was a very famous hypnotherapist. She wrote a lot of books, in her illustrious career. And the book I usually refer to is The Three Waves of Volunteers in New Earth. You're very early second wave, okay? So you're somebody that came here to make changes. You're a system buster, okay? You're here to change the system. So you're what we would call an indigo child, okay? And Lynn's a second wave as well, so she's also a system buster, okay? I'm first wave. I'm a way shower, okay? So you're here to look at the establishment, the status quo, and say, nope, this isn't working. We need to overhaul everything, okay? And from the questions you asked, I could see that you've done a lot of very significant work, but you've run across a lot of conflicts, okay? The reason why you keep running across conflicts is because part of it is because that's your energy. You're a spiritual warrior, okay? So you come in with the spiritual warrior energy. You're ready for a fight, but also it's because the status quo is not going to give up their systems quite so readily, so you keep butting heads, okay, with, the powers to be, okay. I did pick up origins as Pleiadian, okay, so I think you had a lot of lifetimes in the Pleiades, okay. I think you might have had one prior Lyra incarnation. Most Pleiadians were descendants of Lyrans, okay, so I think, so kind of what I saw is you had an initial life in Lyra, and in that lifetime, I actually saw that you were a commander of one of the Lyran starships. And your mission was to evacuate as many people as you could off the planet that was being attacked. Okay, so you're kind of a protector, and so you have this kind of warrior energy anyway, but you're kind of a protector and a rescuer in a sense, okay? So during the wars, I think, because the Lyra was being attacked by the Draconians from Draco, which was a constellation next door, you were trying to, I think, evacuate as many people as you could off the planet. So, and because you were the commander of the ship, you had a lot of responsibility, okay? So you also had to think about the well-being of the crew, the well-being of the ship, of the other fleet that was connected, ships within the fleet. So you kind of had a lot going on, during those times. I think sometimes you do feel a little bit of guilt when things don't go well. Okay, when you make a decision, and sometimes I think you second guess yourself on certain decisions that you make. Maybe this is within, your current, company now, that, I want to do what's for the highest good, but I'm going to make a decision, and I know it's going to piss some people off, or it's going to not work well for some people. And sometimes I think you feel a little guilt around that. Okay. I do see that you survived the wars, and you did get most of the evacuees safely to the Pleiades. Okay. So the star systems within the Pleiades that I see that you're connected with, and each of these have some sort of a meaning to it. Okay, so I see, so I'm going to write down Pleiades, is Alcyon, Taygeta, and Electra. Okay, so those are the three systems that you've had incarnations in. Very mostly well integrated systems, very divine masculine systems. Okay, so these were systems that were all either part of Starfleet or part of government, or there was, or some sort of technology. Okay. Now, do you work for a technological company today, or what kind of business do you do? I'm just curious.
I'm just a consultant, meaning because I've been in China for 25 years.
Okay.
To the point that you were making is, I worked for a couple of large companies originally here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I got tired of that and said, well, I can just do it myself and help others.
Yeah.
So it's mostly about helping people in business understand China.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. Wow. So you're kind of like an ambassador too. That's very cool. Yeah, in a way, yeah. So of the galaxy. Much of the work that you were doing was trying to promote peace and unity throughout the galaxy. And there was one star system that was under constant conflicts and wars, and that was Orion. And Orion was located very close to the Pleiades, so the people that lived in the Orion belt stars reached out to the Pleiadians and asked them for assistance. And because the Pleiadians were a benevolent race of people, they said, yes, we'll help you. But I think the Pleiadians wanted to create, not help the Orion people fight. That wasn't their mission. It was, hey, let's see if we can unify Orion. Let's see if we can come to some common ground. Okay, so you were involved with a lot of those missions. Okay, so I think as far as planet Earth, so I think after Orion achieved unity consciousness, so once they achieved peace and unity throughout their entire constellation, on some level, you agreed to do the same thing for Earth. So you've always been on this really big mission. So you might have had some prior lifetimes on Earth that were kind of building up to this lifetime, but this lifetime is your apex lifetime. This is going to be the most important lifetime that you're going to have on Earth. Okay. So I think in a way, it hasn't been an easy path, but a lot of times starseeds don't choose easy paths. Okay. We choose very hard lessons because we have big missions, and we need to learn the Earth condition. We need to learn what are the problems here on Earth. Okay. And then we can understand, okay, what do I do to fix this? What can I do to build a bridge, between this group and that group. Okay. And I have to say, considering, I think, the current situation between the United States and China, you picked a very big mission. It's very, it's like, and a very tough one. Okay. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I think, the type of soul you are. You're kind of the type of soul, you're kind of like, go big or go home. Okay. You're like, if I'm going to do something, it's got to be big. It's got to be influence a lot of people. Okay. I mean, I got to influence everybody, because I'm not here to just sprinkle, fairy dust and say, oh yeah, everything's all love and light and happy. That's not you. Okay. You're not doing that. Okay. I get some Pleiadians that do that, but that's not you. Okay. You're like, you know what? I'm going to get into the crux of the issues, and I'm going to deal with, creating this. So it's kind of the project that you're on now is very similar to the project that you did in Orion, where you were trying to build, I guess, some sort of treaty between, the Orion Belt Star people and, the Orion Empire, that was on the outlier stars. Okay, so, and I think that's why you were sent here to Earth, was because you had such success in Orion. They figured, well, he kind of knows what he's doing. Let's send him to Earth and see if he can accomplish that. And we're talking about two major superpowers, so that would be, United States and China. Okay. And I think there's a very idealistic aspect of you to go into this kind of work, because otherwise, I don't think you would have taken this on, so there must have been something within you that felt like, you know what, I think we can make this happen. I think if the Americans understand Chinese, and if the Chinese understand Americans, and they're willing to do business with each other, without any punitive action or anything, or any bias, then maybe we can bring peace and unity to this planet. Okay. This is just a little aside, but the Pleiadians also got involved. A lot of people don't know this, but the Pleiadians also got involved with the American Revolutionary War. So they were helping to guide the founding fathers, okay, because they wanted to create this, the first country on Earth that was going to be, at least at that time, was going to be all about, the high-level principles, and, which is not the case today, okay, because we have a lot of corruption in our government, but was going to based on, universal law and equality. Okay, so the Pleiadians did get involved. I think they were, definitely, they had appeared to George Washington a few times, and so he's gotten some downloads, and maybe they even appeared to Benjamin Franklin. I don't know, but but they were definitely involved, and you can read about it on my website in the Pleiadian section. So, so I kind of get that you come here as kind of like a Pleiadian emissary to create peace and unity throughout, I think, the major countries of this planet. Particularly China, because it seems like you have an interest in China. Okay, so and so there was a very good reason why you and Lynn had to connect. Okay, because both of you used to work together. I saw this in the records. Both of you used to work together with the Andromeda Council. That's how you two met off planet. So so both of you were, I think, representatives of the Andromeda Council, which was an intergalactic council. So it was comprised of representatives from different star systems, and there was a big meeting in Andromeda regarding the evolution of our galaxy, and we were looking at Orion. So, okay, Orion was taken care of. So who's really behind in their evolution? It was Earth. Okay, so a lot of us starseeds that attended that meeting decided to volunteer for the Earth Ascension Project. And a lot of times we made, soul contracts with certain individuals that we enjoyed working with or that we felt a connection with. And obviously for you and Lynn, it was you and her, okay? And very possibly you probably even had a romantic relationship back then, okay? And, maybe it was kind of like, hey, we don't want to be apart. Let's let's do this Earth thing together. Let's because it sounds like when you two met, it was instantaneous. It was like, you saw each other, bam, it was like a recognition was there, like this is the person I'm supposed to be with. And it's usually how it works with starseeds. It's like, bam, there's some sort of recognition. I know the same thing happened with me and my partner, but and it's like, oh yeah, this is the person that's going to take me to the next level. Okay. So I don't know if that answers question one, but we still have a lot of questions to go. But
no, I look. I think number one, with regard to Lynn, there's no doubt that, again, and I can't stress this enough. If you go back 3 months,
yeah,
it's not this guy.
Yeah.
Being together in a very short period of time, even the first couple of days, things not only just made sense, but it was the connection that we had. It was clear that there was something more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And see, Lynn is kind of she's a system changer too, and she's here to change things as well. But I think what Lynn was lacking was that partnership, because she's born as a Libra, so Libra is all about partnership, and she knew she had a bigger mission, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. Okay, and you probably knew, and so she knew her path, but she didn't have the right components in place at the time, and you didn't know your path. Okay, so it was like you two are coming in and you're sharing your strengths and together, and being able to become like a spiritual power couple. Okay, so let's see. I think we might have already answered some of this, but what is there from my past lives that may or may not exist in my spirit today that might act as a foundation or as a guide leading me in the direction I've taken so far? I think we answered some of this already, but your mission is to bring peace and unity to the planet, okay, and to expand consciousness. Okay, so this is, and maybe it didn't look like that, a few months ago, but since you've been activated by Lynn, now you have a bigger picture, okay, and I think for you, even in maybe prior lifetimes on Earth, you were always in positions of influence, okay, of some sort of influence, okay, and I kind of see that you were like a Roman statesman, or you were like, a king in, one of the province in Greece, or you had lifetimes, you were like a general, or, where you were always in positions of leadership. Okay, so you came here to be a leader in the movement towards unification. Okay, and so I think this business that you have now, this consulting business, is kind of like the first step. Okay, it's not going to be the full extent of your mission here. I think it's just the first step towards your mission. But yeah, I would say you're on the right path. It's a hard path, though. But I think that's kind of how you are. You're go big or go home kind of guy. You're going to do it right, or yeah, you're going to do it right, or you're not going to do it right. So.
Right, and I think an earlier point that you made that I found really interesting, and Lynn and I have talked about it, is I just always know that I've never really understood the why. I just knew the direction, and I knew the direction was going to be hard. But I also felt, and I continue to feel this way, that I actually, I've got the strength to be able to take it. Most people don't.
Exactly.
That's why I keep going. And we've had some discussions where I would say even disagreements where she's like, well, maybe you don't have to fight it. Maybe they'll come to you. But to your point, it's like, no, you have to fight this. Like right now, there's no other option. I think you made the point, which was they're not going. Like, you have to. It's like taking two children and pounding their heads together.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
It's almost like,
again,
and you had to do that in Orion too. I mean, because you had the Orion Empire that was all about control and enslavement, and then you had the Orion Belt Star people that just wanted their freedom. So it's kind of like, well, how do we get everybody together on the same page when they have such opposing viewpoints? And that was quite the mission, because Orion had been in conflicts for millions of years. So it wasn't easy to change these people's minds. But you did it. You managed to do it in that lifetime. So now it's kind of like, okay, now we got two opposing, superpowers again, that, need to be in cohesive relationship with each other, but are choosing not to. So how do I bridge the gap? Okay. And sometimes you have to take a very assertive stance. You can't, I see Lynn's perspective too, where I think, maybe there's ways that you can do it in a more harmonious fashion, but I think at first it's going to be tough. It's going to be like, we have to kind of force this, or put a little bit more assertive action to it. Okay. Let's see the next question. My path over the past 25 years, when I first moved to China, has been filled with erratic relationships. Even though I try to communicate my intentions with both words and actions and help others understand the rationale between my actions and decisions, it always feels like I fail in the end, even though I have a strong belief that I put more than 100% into all of these relationships. Every time it just feels like there's a disconnect, and I feel I have failed those around me. What am I missing? Okay, this is like your lesson. Okay, so ever since your time in, I think you kind of, this is kind of like an ongoing trauma signature that you're trying to work out. Okay, so ever since that lifetime in Lyra, where you couldn't save everybody, I mean, you were trying to evacuate as many people as you could. Many people were dying around you. You could only do so much, and you felt really guilty. So this has kind of been a trauma signature that keeps replaying in various lifetimes. Okay. And we all have this. Okay. We all kind of go through this process. Okay. For you being a Pleiadian starseed, relationships are super important to you. Okay. Relationships were like, were like the highest of the high in the Pleiades. But when you're in the Pleiades and everybody's is evolved and you're all in the higher dimension, it's really easy to have easy relationships in the Pleiades, because they're all telepathically communicating with each other, and it's easy to have harmonious relationships. But when we get here to Earth, a lot of Pleiadian starseeds struggle in relationships because they always expect the absolute best. They always see the potential of things, rather than sometimes the reality of things. Okay, and so sometimes they'll go into like a relationship situation thinking, well, I see the potential of this. If I just bring my love and light to the situation, we can make it really great. But then what they find is that a lot of other people don't have their level of integrity or their level of, commitment. Okay. And they end up, I think, getting disappointed. Okay. Until I think finally the Pleiadian soul gets really well integrated, and they're able to face up to, okay, these were, mistakes that I've made in the past, and this is how I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to set more boundaries, or I'm going to set, maybe not put 100% into things like I used to, but, and I had to learn this as well, because I was the same as you. I was always, I felt like, I would get into relationships and they would never work out, and even friendships. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm such a nice, giving person. And then, but then I started realizing, yeah, but I'm being a little codependent. Maybe I need to not give so much, set some boundaries, and then relationships started working better for me. Okay. I'm not saying you're codependent. I'm just using that as an example, but for Pleiadians especially, they get very disillusioned in relationships because they see the potential of everything. And here on Earth, most people are operating in a third dimensional standpoint. I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, a very evolved friend of mine, and she was asking me, what's the difference between a 3D relationship and a 4D relationship? And I said, well, I think in the 4D relationship, there's no expectations. There's just, you just, give the person the space to be who they are, and you love them regardless. Okay, yeah, so... So if you're able to create that in our reality, you're helping the Earth to ascend because you're bringing in that higher level love energy, okay, which I think you two are doing right now, okay, but and my husband and I have that kind of relationship too, where we just kind of let ourselves, we give each other the space to be who we are, okay, so but the point of me telling you that is that I think sometimes the Pleiadian soul wants to create that, but they're dealing with 3D people that don't even know what it is. They don't even know, they don't even have enough self-awareness to even look at themselves. Okay, so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, it's just I think you're gonna find as I think as you start operating more in 4D and 5D, that relationships are going to get a lot easier. Okay. And even in some of your business dealings, I think as long as you're coming, you keep working with the high ethics and high vibrations, they're going to flow a lot easier. Okay. And even some of the conflictual relationships won't be as heavy or won't feel as stuck as they did in the past. Okay. Okay, next question. To the question above, when I was a younger adult in my early 20s, I was very trusting and open with people. I think we've kind of answered some of this already, but yeah, virtually every time, though, that trust was violated, and over time I became increasingly less trusting. Still, in those few instances where I did decide once again to open up to others, I found myself again having that trust violated. Okay, I think we answered some of this, but
yeah, I think we answered that one.
Yeah, there's so much I want to share with others, ideas I believe that need to be more broadly communicated and which are wholly selfless, which I now know most people can understand these ideas. I need allies, others. What can I do to make people better understand the broader view that I see? I guess the quick answer to that is there's people. So we're talking about by vibration and frequency. So you're operating at this level frequency. Most other people are operating at this level frequency. So they're never going to see things the way you see it. What you need to do is find members of your tribe that are on the same frequency. Okay. And there are people out there that are starseeds or light workers that are definitely going to be at this level. Okay. And those are the people that you want to work with. You don't want to try to bring the 3D people up to you because they're not ready. Okay. They're not ready. If they're already not in alignment, they're never going to be in alignment. Okay. So what you want to do is find those people that are in alignment and work with them instead. Okay. Okay. All right. My outlook is one of very deep righteousness. It isn't that being right matters to me. It's a matter of having deep convictions on subjects and issues that I consider to be very important. Here again, not important to me personally, but to a wider audience. On nearly every major occasion, these convictions in the past have proven to be very accurate, yet the majority of people I engage with label me as unyielding and stubborn. Is my moral compass pointed to the proper direction. I'm going to have to check with your guides on some of this. So kind of give me an example of what's a conviction that you have that people think that you're being stubborn about, just so I have some frame of reference.
Right. Well, I mean, it goes, basically to the whole China situation.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right. For the longest time, I've tried to explain, like, look, there's more in common, there's more shared between China and the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, the example I try to give people is China has never operated under a Judeo-Christian ethos.
Yeah, gotcha, yeah.
Like, basically, for the last 500 years, China, when they're hiring of people, I'm like, if you're going to hire a local team, you have to trust them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't micromanage them from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna, and so it's basically understanding the direction, understanding with conviction, and then just holding that, not necessarily, and I realize I can probably figure out perhaps it's a better way to be more diplomatic.
Yeah.
But I'm not a diplomat. I should say, coming out of this call may have to learn, but I'm more about that. That's why I'm saying the word righteousness rather than right.
Right, yeah, gotcha.
I'm very, very convicted about this is what you need to know.
And
I can be blunt.
No, yeah.
So.
Let me check with your guides, see what... Okay, I think some of it's your personality, okay? So I think some of it is... I think in your past lives, off-planet and on-planet, sometimes you were placed in positions of very high responsibility. So you've taken on this persona of, I have to have a lot of this conviction or a lot of this, this energy, because otherwise people aren't going to follow me, okay? So there's a certain amount of masculine, I guess, push forward energy that you're coming in with, okay? What your guides are showing me is that in the Pleiades, they were all about balance, okay? So Pleiadians really valued, they were one of the few, I think, star systems that really embraced a kind of an integration of masculine and feminine energies, okay? And I think it's like your natural inclination to maybe emphasize, your point of view, okay? But I think sometimes you might want to bring in some of that feminine. So that's what I think Lynn's trying to tell you is, hey, you might want to take a different approach. Maybe you win more flies with honey than with vinegar, okay? So you might want to be a little bit softer in how you explain things to people, or try to take it from their perspective, or find some common ground. So these are all more feminine approaches to resolving conflict, okay? And so, yeah, you might be coming across as, stubborn and unyielding, because I think in your past lives, especially on Earth, you had to operate that way to get anything done. Okay. Now you're like, well, this isn't working anymore. I got to, try a different approach, but it's, not very natural for me. And I think that's another reason why you and Lynn are connected, because Lynn is very good at, being diplomatic and, kind of taking different directions towards resolving issues. Okay. And so I think the quick answer to that would be to integrate more feminine qualities to your communication style. Okay. There's a really good. I was wondering why I saw this book today, and I think you'll like this book. It's called, it was something about the nonviolent communication style. It was a book I read when I was recovering from breast cancer a few years ago, because I was dealing with some inner stuff. And I'll try to find the book, and I'll send you a link to it. I'll send that along with the recording. Let's go on to the next question. Again, to the question above, I am now faced with the future in my mind's eye as I have a very deep concern about the China and the U.S. relationship. I see a very strong pull inside of me that I need to do something significant. I even feel deeply that I might be the very few people that can actually do anything before events become irreversible. All of this is as deep as a conviction as I've had in the past. I just don't know what it is I should do. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right about this is a very big mission, and you picked a particularly hard one. Okay. And you're right. I think you are one of the few people that have the perspective of making some sort of influence. Okay. As far as your higher, I'm checking in with your guides. I think what your guides are showing me is that I see you on some level. I don't know. This is kind of maybe future stuff, but I see that you're gonna end up taking a political role at some point. It's not what you, I think, want to do, okay? Because you're not a political animal, okay? I see that about you, but because you're not, you're not diplomatic, okay? But I don't know why, but I'm seeing you going to the United States at some point and talking to Congress or something, where you're gonna be making a major stand. And this is going to be the biggest thing that you'll ever do in this lifetime, where you're going to be, I think, presenting your case on, why the United States needs to have better relations with China. Okay. And you'll be there as kind of like a representation of that side. Okay. I think what you say during that, so this is where the communication skills will come in. Okay, so there's a point to all this, so it's like, it's like your guides are taking you from one step to the next to prepare you for the big job. But I'm kind of seeing that what you say during that, I guess that speech or that presentation is going to have a major effect on how the United States move forward with their relationship with China. I know that sounds huge. Okay, it sounds really big, but I think even though you will be one of several people that'll be talking during this, I guess this meeting or this whatever, it's going to have, what you say is going to have an effect. Okay, it's going to make sense to people, and they're going to start having a different viewpoint towards China. Okay, so and maybe we can start repairing the relationship. And this is all work that you did before in Orion. It all kind of, when I look at what you're doing now, it kind of reminds me of what you did in the past. Where you were trying to bring these two opposing forces together, and you were like, the neutral party, that was trying to bring these, two opposing forces together. So this is going to be kind of like the and I think you're going to end up playing a part as far as repairing those relationships. What that is exactly, I'm not sure yet. I think that's going to be part of your path, but that your guides will reveal to you when the time is right. But I see you playing a major part. Okay. So you came here with a big mission. Big. You need a strong woman like Lynn by your side. So, yeah. Yep. So,
yeah, look, the odd thing is that I never, this never entered my consciousness until, again, I was telling Lynn, one of the interesting things about the job that I've done, the work that my own company,
yeah,
is I've done okay.
Yeah.
but because of sort of my personality,
yeah,
I didn't play the games and everything else. So financially, while I did okay, if I played the game, I could have been much bigger.
oh yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
But one of the things that I realized when she and I started talking was, she said, well, look, there was probably a reason for that. And the one thing everybody in my sphere right now has is massive integrity for who I am and what I do.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And she was like, look, maybe there was a need for you to have a bit of a more global reach, or industry where people know who you are, they have nothing but respect, and they know you have integrity, because there's something after. And then as we started talking, I'm like, exactly to your point, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting pulled into the political realm because of what's been going on.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So again, she's just been doing a great job of connecting a lot of dots that you're now reinforcing. So
okay.
It's a little nutty, but I hear it all makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it's out there. I admit, stuff I talk about is out there. But there's a reason why it's coming to our consciousness now, because now is the time for us to start incorporating, these lessons that we learned in, some of our past lives, off planet and on planet. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I'm just looking at the time here. I think we have about, about 20 minutes left. So I want to, 25 minutes. So I want to concentrate on Lynn's questions. And then if we have time, we'll kind of do an assessment and see where we're at. Okay, so from Lynn, what is the relationship I have with reptilian, draconian beings, the war with them from star system, how it affects here on Earth? We kind of talked about this already, but we'll go through it again. How should I deal with them better? Is this karmic relationship able to heal or get clean? Okay. As a galactic historian, yeah, everything that has been ongoing in human history has been based off of the Lyra Draconian Wars. Okay, so that was the first conflict of light against dark. Okay, and Lynn, I'm trying to remember, I think, what you were doing around that time. I think you're from Andromeda Galaxy originally, so you're an ancient soul. You've been around for, billions of years. But I think I do see that you had, I think, in a way, you had some sort of connection with the higher level dragon beings. Okay. I think you were trying to get them to assist the Lyrans, because they weren't the ones that started the war. Okay, it was the warrior caste reptilians that started the war. Okay, so the higher echelon dragon beings were just kind of like neutral. Okay, they weren't involved with it. Okay. And I think what you were trying to do was you're trying to convince them to assist the Lyrans, because the Lyrans were going to get wiped out. Okay. And I think the dragon beings didn't really want to get involved. Okay. They figure, well, this isn't our fight. They were very neutral beings. And they weren't malevolent like the warrior caste reptilians, but they weren't exactly all benevolent either. Okay. So, but I think you did convince some of them to, I think, indirectly help maybe some of the Lyrans and some of their passage out of Lyra, making sure they were protected for a while, or, so I think you feel this connection with dragons. Okay. And I think it's been a long-standing understanding, and the dragon figure is very, I think it was always like a benevolent being in Chinese mythology. You always see, and dragons were great teachers. They were teachers for a long, they were considered to be very benevolent beings for a reason. But so you've always had this connection through your, I think your cultural background, and also through your galactic background. That you've always had this connection. And so I think Part of what you're trying to do now is, I think you're trying to reconnect with your dragon connections once again. Okay, so this is why I think you're feeling pulled towards this particular group of beings. Okay, so so I think the karmic relationship that you have with, I guess, reptilians is maybe more towards the warrior caste reptilians, but it's also towards, I think, some of the dragon beings that, even though they were helping to a certain extent, I think sometimes you felt like, maybe they should have gotten more involved, or, you were kind of a little disappointed maybe in, because dragons kind of just do their own thing. They don't have the same rules like we have here, that humans have, or, starseeds have. Okay, so and they have their own reasons for doing how they do things. And sometimes we don't always understand those reasons. So I guess maybe it's, maybe just understanding that they have their reasons for doing how they do things. And that may not necessarily be negative. It may just be the way they go about things. But they do tend to be, it leads to our own healing. Okay. Let's see, where does Peter come from? I think we answered that already. So what star system? Did he work with me a long time in Andromeda Galaxy? Are we a couple when we're in that other system? You actually met each other in Andromeda constellation. So that was during in the Andromeda Council. Actually, out of the two of you, Lynn is the more evolved being, or she's the more ancient being. She's been around for billions of years. Okay, so a much older soul. Okay, and that doesn't mean you're not an old soul, Peter, because you are an old soul. If you had lifetimes in Lyra, you're an old soul. Okay, good. Because that was millions of years ago. So, but I think you two actually met at the Andromeda Council, and you had this relationship. You wanted to work together. You guys work really well together, actually. You both have kind of strengths that the other one doesn't have. You're very complementary in a lot of ways, which is I think the hallmark of a great relationship, is that you're not the same, but you're very complementary, and I see you guys becoming like a spiritual power couple, and you're going to be together for a long time. So yeah, so I'm excited. I wish I could be there for the wedding. It would be awesome. But yeah. So but anyway, this is my small gift to you guys. But is Peter also a dragon being? Some dragon beings are also very advanced. What's the purpose of the being of Peter coming to Earth? I don't think Peter is of the dragon caste. Okay, he's more the humanoid persuasion, which many of us are. But I do think that he does have that spiritual warrior energy that is very powerful. He comes in with very powerful energy, which is dragon-like. Okay, so because he's a protector, he's a rescuer, he's a warrior. Okay, so genetically he doesn't carry reptilian genetics, but he does have some of the qualities. Okay.
I mean, not like reptilian dragon. I mean, like the
higher dragons. Yeah, I do think he has a relationship with them because they were assisting him when he was trying to. I think they were kind of protecting the ships, because otherwise the ships would have been taken out by the Draconian Armada. So, so there is a relationship there. Kind of like, okay, thank you for helping us. But he does carry a lot of the dragon quality. So, just he's a powerful soul. You wouldn't have taken on this project if you weren't a powerful soul, Peter. That's why you had such a tough time. You had to build yourself up to this moment. So yeah. Let's see. We had contract in this lifetime to be together. We're both very strong beings. Any good guidance for us to have harmonious relationship? That's a great question. Well, we already talked about how you guys met or how you guys got connected, but I would say as far as harmonious relationship, I think it's just it's kind of what I've been with my partner for 18 years. Okay, we're both star seeds. We're very different, but he has strengths I don't have. He's more like the disclosure king. He's always like out there, trying to look at the bigger picture of what's happening in the political arena and the financial arena and all that. But whereas I deal more with the ascension type of information. But I would say as far as having a harmonious relationship is just giving each other the space to be who you are, and honoring that you're going to be different, okay, and still respecting one another. Good communication is also key. You always got to have good communication, but I would say, just honoring that, you're two beautiful souls. You have the soul contract. You're in partnership for a reason. You're here to work a big mission together, to bring peace and unity to this planet, and I think as long as you keep that in mind, I think you guys will do great. So let's see. Sorry, my cat's showing up here, so I'm gonna. So let's see. Oh wow, I resigned my job. How long will I need to prepare for my next new beginning? Any good suggestions or directions to help me move forward? Okay, we might have to spend some time on this one. Okay. Sorry, my cat's here, so she might show up on the screen. So here's a little kitty. Here's my kitty. Hi, kitty. She's a hairless kitty. So let's see. Well, congratulations on resigning from your job. I know you wanted to do that for a while, so I think it was a good move. Let's see, how long will it take for me? I think your next role that you're going to be playing is, I think you'll be supporting Peter in, the work that he's going to be doing. But I think you're also, I think you're going to start your, I still see this. I think you're going to start your own studio or your own business. And it's going to be not just yoga, although yoga might be a part of it. I see like a big holistic center, and it's a model that you're going to take throughout China and even other parts of the world. So, so I think, Peter is going to be working on bringing peace and unity, maybe from a political standpoint, but you're going to be helping people to reconnect with their divinity and to heal and to become spiritual beings again. Okay, so so I still see, and I think this is going to probably take you at least, I'm going to say about a year of planning, maybe. So I think you'll find like the brick and mortar space, when the time's right. I see you starting this in Shanghai, but then taking this model to other cities throughout, maybe China or Southeast Asia, so, but you have to start with the first one in Shanghai. And so I see about a year of planning, a year of maybe trying to get the finances together or the funding or the investment. And I think Peter will have the connections to ensure that that you'll be more successful with that. So it was like what I said before. It's like you already had your mission in mind, but you were just waiting for the component, to come into play, that missing piece. And now that the missing piece is there, now you can move forward. Okay, so any good suggestions, directions to help me move forward? I would say I think planning is going to be key. I think whenever you're starting a new venture, there's always going to be it starts with an idea, and then you have to put the energy into it through, I think, your own desire to create this. And then you have to take the necessary physical action to, I think, make sure that this happens. I have very high, I guess I see very high probabilities that you're going to make this happen. And it's going to be successful because you also come in with a lot of leadership abilities. Okay, so so you two are leaders together. So I think initially you'll be kind of helping Peter with some of his things, but I think you're going to start this business and it's just going to take off. I think people in China need this. I think they need it. The old model is no longer working, okay, and religion doesn't work anymore. Just the basic, spirituality 101 isn't working anymore. So we need something that's has a little bit more oomph to it. So I think this is going to be highly successful. So I'm excited for you. I'm very happy you quit your job, by the way. I was thinking about you today. I was like, I wonder if she's still working her job or what she's doing. Yeah, so it wasn't, the job itself was okay. I think it was just the corporation or you were working for that was, the management or, I don't know, was not good or, it's very, very 3D. Yeah, so now's your opportunity to create your 5D business. Okay. Let's see. As my new soul sits in more and more clear, what's the purpose of the soul? What direction or work will she start to open to? Well, you're here to help expand consciousness. You're here to. There is a reason why you were born in China, because the Chinese people need healing and awakening. Okay. So, as an Andromeda Galaxy soul, you come in as a frequency master, to pave the way for, many people to become awakened and we get reconnected to their divinity, to, what their true mission is, rather to be, stuck in this matrix, reality that's, false matrix, So you're actually here to help free people from a, I guess, mental and spiritual bondage. Okay, so you're kind of going to be like the lighthouse of Shanghai. That people that are looking for answers or looking for a better way are going to find you. Okay, so your mission is just beginning. Okay. Peter's has kind of been ongoing, but his big mission is coming. But yeah, so I think I just see great things ahead. So I think you're going to be very, very busy after a year from now. You're going to be very, very, very busy. So be prepared. So yeah. I'm just so happy for you guys. It's like I've been working with Lynn for a while, and I knew that the right person was coming into her path. I just didn't know who it was, but I knew that was going to happen. And just to see her there sitting with you, Peter, makes me so happy. My heart's going to burst. So I think I'm just really happy for you guys. So I'm a romantic at heart. So I think life is always easier when you have good partnership. It makes the mission a lot easier. Yeah.
And one quick comment is honestly that I had given up.
Yeah.
4 months ago, I was like, look, I'm a great guy. I got everything going for me. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
And literally on the street, one Sunday, drinking a beer, I look up and see her. And like I said, I can't explain it. Mm-hmm. And nor am I trying to. I'm just like, I know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
That goes to that whole like righteousness, unyielding stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
And to the point about the relationship is, I've always been one I want to be there and give everybody that, like you said, that space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what I found in the past is that it wasn't me that I think used the word codependent. What I found was in those relationships in the past, it was the other people wanted me to be more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm like, no, you do what you want to do. I'm here for you, whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And it failed. No. This one, she's like, that's great. And then she started doing stuff. And I'm like, just do what you want to do, what you feel like you have to do. I'm here however you need. And it's great.
Oh no, I'm happy because when you can find partnership when you're at the same level, where you don't have to like rescue somebody, they're already working on their own, path. That's a beautiful relationship. I mean, that's where you're going to see success. If you're in a relationship where you constantly feel like, oh, I'm throwing, what they call those little things, like a life raft, or I don't know what they call those. Yeah. It doesn't work because you're not equally yoked, So yeah, no, it's you had to find somebody at your level, that's what I'm saying about the business too. It's like you have to work with people that are on the same level as you. So what kind of work of the soul was working from the other galaxy? So there was a reason why you had your walk-in experience, because your old Pleiadian soul would not have been able to take on such a massive project. So you had to have the walk-in from the Andromeda galaxy, or the Andromeda at this time, to go to work on your next phase of your Earth path. So and because you have chosen, or the agreement was that you were going to do this big mission with Peter, I guess, with both of you, you had to have a much stronger soul, walk in at the time that it did. It just took a few months for things to come together, so because I think you and I started working about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. Yeah, so it's taken a few months. Yeah, so unfortunately we are at the end of our time, so I do have to wrap things up because I have another reading after this one, but it's been a real pleasure connecting with both of you. I'm so excited for both of you. I wish I could be there in Shanghai to celebrate the wedding with you, but I'll be there in spirit. But anyway, many blessings to both of you. I'm going to do a closing prayer just to kind of shut down the records, and then we'll take it from there. I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the Akashic records for their point of view. I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. Your energy goes with you. My energy stays with me.